In the 50s, Luigi Greco was the second most powerful member in Canadian Cosa Nostra. Yet, in his modest appearance, he would have looked like just another Italian Canadian who owned a pizza restaurant. Indeed, Luigi didn't try to dress or carry himself for his elevated rank. But Luigi had never grown up in Sicily either, nor did he have a father for too long, as he was fatherless almost all his childhood, sadly. And so his rise to prominence in the mob is that much more impressive, because Luigi Greco was among the executives who laid the groundwork for the Pizza Connection, the international heroin smuggling effort which crossed from Europe to Canada into the United States. But even Luigi answered to the boss of bosses, Vic Catroni and Carmine Galante.
So, when you talk to me like that, fuck you think you're talking to? I'll fucking eat you alive.
Mike.
That was Sammy the Bull Gravano, once the underboss of the Gambino family. And this was Appalachian, New York, where hundreds of underbosses and bosses congregated on November 14th of 1957, and it ended up being a disaster of epic proportions. But what was Luigi, the Canadian, doing there? Luigi was acting as the right hand of Vic Catroni at that meeting, and as mobsters often do, Greco escaped the grasp of the law that day. In Appalachian, New York, within the town of Owego, Luigi and his boss Vic were also seen with the likes of Mayor Lansky and Lucky Luciano, and all went well until the day Greco passed away, because Nicolo Rizzuto had a lot of respect for him. And then it happened. Luigi Greco's death. In the balance for control for Montreal's gambling and vice rackets, the tide has turned between the Calabrian and Sicilian factions. The Catroni and Violi sections of the family would not be able to contain the Rizzuto branch. And with this, the passing of Luigi Greco marks the turning point of the passage of power from the Calabrians into the hands of the Sicilians. It's 1995, partying, not a care in the world. He drives through the city, glorious and free, to cause trouble as he sees fit. Leo was wild, but he was not stupid. He has completed a bachelor's in law. He has applied himself in college. He was the pride of his father, Vito. And so the news that had just arrived to the household was disappointing. Leo Rizzuto has been refused by Le Barreau, which is the Lawyers Guild. Although they don't officially say it, perhaps they are a little uneasy with his application. His dad, Vito Rizzuto, was the godfather of the Montreal Mafia. After all. But to be fair, Leonardo, his son, was his own man. He was gonna do what he wanted to do. No ifs and buts about it. For example, by college, he already had 2 cases of drunk driving and 7 years total of suspensions. Not only that, Leonardo was arrested at least 10 times for driving without a license. And it was for these factors that Leonardo was rejected by the bar for the 3rd time.
Et donc, le barreau a dit, écoutez, vous avez un mépris total pour la loi, vous n'avez pas les mœurs et la conduite et les qualités nécessaires, ce qui est un critère dans la loi, pour faire partie de notre profession, et donc on vous rejette.
Leonardo Rizzuto conteste.
Son avocat a dit que c'était, au fond, une façon hypocrite d'exclure le fils du parrain.
Et gagne. Leonardo Rizzuto devient avocat à sa 3e tentative. Et 20 ans plus tard, ce titre va beaucoup lui servir.
In 1978, the Rizzutos took their newfound wealth and power and came home. The last of their Montreal enemies had been murdered, leaving Vito as the uncontested mafia boss here. These were the Rizzutos' golden years. father and son and their closest friends built mansions on the same street on what is dubbed Mafia Row in Montreal. The lessons of Cattolica were paying off. Vito cut deals with criminal gangs, those that controlled the port and others who distributed drugs. Mafia and bikers working together, an unholy alliance.
It pacified the crime scene in Montreal.
And a peaceful environment is good for crime.
It's good for the business, because there is a lot of money involved.
Andre Bouchard says that during the years of alliance between the mafia and the gangs at the port, drugs poured into the city, and everyone made crazy amounts of money.
I saw the hockey bags of $100 and $20 bills just going in, and counting machines working 24 hours a day. Counting machines working 24 hours a day. Counting machines working 24 hours a day.
The RCMP wanted to track the drug money to see how it was laundered. So they set up a sting operation in downtown Montreal, a money exchange office. They watched as the money rolled in.
Some days we could have $5 million, and other days Rizzuto's money, was being brought here, exchanged for checks. That was sent by Laguna, then after that to his Swiss bank account.
Let's lawyer the country over here. Let's lawyer the country over here.
And so Vito became known as the Teflon Don. He was rich, powerful, and seemingly untouchable. By 2004, Vito had achieved his father's dream of a criminal empire. But every empire falls eventually.
Every empire falls by itself eventually. And that's why there's only one Rizzuto left.
Leonardo Rizzuto.
And after the death of his father, the police are wondering, will he and when will he take the reins of the Sicilian faction of the Montreal Mafia? But before we move on, one story leads us to more truths, into the past character and myth that is Leonardo Rizzuto, or more specifically, when he was college-aged, when there was a biker war in Canada in the mid-90s. In fact, once upon a time, he had all the friends in the world, but in the summer months of the mid-years of the 1990s, a young man had not felt his destiny yet, and his father had different plans for him. Rather, Vito was grooming his brother to be the street boss. Yet Vito had big plans for Leonardo. Certainly, he had another idea in mind for his son. He was to be legitimized, a sort of Rizzuto 2.0 organization, with a lawyer as the brain and head of the family. Although Vito was the quintessential son of a gangster, Vito had not been so far removed from the streets as he was in the later stages of his life. But for his son, or the grandson of Nicolo, the patriarchs of the family desperately wanted something different for their son.
Alleged mafioso Leonardo Rizzuto, son of former Montreal Mafia boss, the late Vito Rizzuto, was the target of an attempted murder Wednesday. The 53-year-old was reportedly shot in the leg while inside a vehicle on Highway 440 in Laval, north of Montreal, shot at around 6 times from someone in a moving vehicle. He was taken to hospital and his life isn't in danger.
The attempt was to kill Mr. Rizzuto and not just to advise him or to scare him. So I think whoever decide to mastermind this shooting is clearly try to control. Perhaps Leonardo Rizzuto inactivity in recent times has stirred up some appetite in the people who were once loyal to him.
The investigation has now been transferred to the provincial police's major crimes unit. A public security expert says the shooting is worrisome, saying it's been a calm 2 years in terms of mafia-related activity.
Indeed, it was the quietest period that we've ever had since this mafia war broke out. But it does seem this war has no end in sight. Remember that Desjardins is one of the last few remaining of an older generation at the table of this council of mafias. But he has knocked them almost all off the table, and so he is the last one remaining of an older generation. But sadly, Desjardins' quest for power did not come without tremendous cost to his personal life, as Ray was not able to keep his promise to his mentor, Jose Di Malo. One of Di Malo's dying wishes was for Reynald, or Ray as he would call him, to take his son under his wing. And last but not least, Jose Di Malo thought that Ray, he should lead the Montreal Mafia. And to say that the last 2 years of quiet was born out of fear of the police would be an understatement. If there's anything Desjardins hates at all, it's prison. But he was no rat, and he wouldn't tolerate no rats either. The quiet and peace achieved during these 2 limited years were just that, limited. The real question is, would Desjardins agree to sit at the table forever with someone he'd consider a kid, who wasn't even born when he was out there putting in work for Jose Di Malo's sangue per sangue, who was himself a key member of Vic Catroni's administration, by the way, supplanted in their positions of power from the hierarchy of the Cosa Nostra from the 50s and 60s in Montreal City. Joseph Di Malo's, who had seen his own padre humiliated, usurped by the Rizzutos through a systematic annihilation. Sadly, it was the fate of many mobsters to fall under the sword of the Rizzuto clan. It is equally disturbing to see the fate of similar kind befall the Rizzutos. It's August 20th, 2015.
What do you think about that law with the Air Force that they're able to open their phones? That's going to fall, I know. That's not going to fall? Is there a chief in one of it to do that? Yes. Such a weird surprise.
The men you heard were Leonardo Rizzuto with his lawyer, Loris Cavaliere, who was the de facto leader of the Montreal Mafia. He was in charge during the transition process to the son, and other sons of Sicily, such as Solicito.
Stay with what?
But some say that's an optimistic thought.
We all hope that there won't be any types of retaliation, but given the history in organized crime, it would be very surprising that there is no retaliation.
In Montreal, Alicia Rubertucci, City News.